I want to tell you a little something about my dad. My dad, one of his favorite games when I was a kid was we'd be watching old movies or TV shows, and he would point to one of the actors and he would say, "Recognize that guy?" My dad had this encyclopedic knowledge of character actors. He would anybody remember the sitcom The Real McCoys? Awesome. Richard Crenna. He pointed at the actor, Walter Brennan, playing the wacky grandpa. And he would say, "That guy played a real son of a bitch in My Darling Clementine." Or we'd be watching the Beverly Hillbillies, and he would say, "Jed Clampett almost played the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, but he got sick from the silver paint." Look it up. Every single time we would watch It's a Wonderful Life, my dad would point to Ward Bond, the actor playing Bert the cop, and he'd say, "Recognize that guy? That son of a bitch named names." Sounds like my dad was an old Jewish socialist, which he's not, but he was when we played that game. Anyway, the first time I remember him playing that game was we were watching The Twilight Zone, and it was that episode about the evil talking ventriloquist dummy. And I was probably 5. My dad, he pointed at the actor playing the ventriloquist and he said, "Recognize that guy?" And I actually knew the answer. It was Jackie Cooper, who had played Jack Hawkins in the 1934 version of Treasure Island, and he went on to play Perry White in all of the Christopher Reeve Supermans. Yes. But I couldn't tell my dad the answer because that evil talking doll dummy scared the shit out of me. Which is crazy when I think about it now, because that episode wasn't even the scariest Twilight Zone episode about an evil talking ventriloquist dummy. The better episode is in the 2nd season, and it starred Cliff Robertson, who won the Best Actor for Charlie, and played the villain Shame in the old Batman TV show. And when his dummy came to life, the dummy was played as a real person by George Murdoch, who played Lieutenant Scanlon and Barney Miller, and Admiral Hansen in the Best of Both Worlds episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Also, he played the judge here in Chicago in the trial of the Chicago 7 with a young man named Dave Pasquesi and Del Close. This is a great game. But that night I couldn't play the game because evil talking dolls terrified me. All of them. Not so much the Chucky movies, which are too over the top and campy for me, but and Chucky is too lifelike. It's the blank-faced, inanimate dolls or mannequins that just suddenly come to life or do something that terrify. Magic with Anthony Hopkins. The final third of Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black. Anybody? Nobody? I don't have a thing about clowns. I got a thing about talking dolls. Inanimate things coming to life. They freak me out. They did not scare my father, though. Actually, not much scared my dad. He was tough. Even though he didn't know how to swim, he joined the Navy. I still don't know how he passed the swimming test. He chased down the guys who stole our shitty car in San Francisco. I watched him strap on a sidearm and stare down poachers in Northern California. He was in the doctor's faces demanding information when my mom had triple pneumonia and almost died in the 80s. He was also funny. Well, he wasn't funny. He was dry. There was dust on his wit. I used to say I got my sense of humor from my dad because my mom still had hers. It's an old one, but a good one. Dad was not a hugger. He and my mom were not into public displays of affection. I think he told me he loved me exactly once when I was 23 and I was going off to grad school. The very first, maybe the only time that I ever saw him cry was when our dog Pat, our very old, very, very sick Irish setter, was dying, and instead of taking him to the vet, which Pat hated, Dad put him down himself in our backyard. Single shot, back to the head. Dad cried that day. I'm definitely not like my dad. I cry every day. Beer commercials, clips of people saving ducklings on Facebook. That episode of Doctor Who with Vincent Van Gogh. Anybody? Yeah, I know. Every time. Modern Family. I'm not proud of it, but it's a fact. I'm a sucker for anything with a father and a son, or a daughter. I just recently watched Mulan And I burst into tears on the plane when he hugs Milan, the father hugs Milan at the end. And I'm definitely not tough like my dad. Here's how I know. One night, Dee and I, we were living in LA. Our son Quincy was 5 or 6, so Daisy would have been 2 or 3. And in the middle of the night, from somewhere in the house, I hear a voice say, "Reach for the sky." And at first I'm sure it's just a realistic dream, and I try to go back to sleep. And then I hear the same voice say, "There's a snake in my boots." And I sit up, and Dee hasn't moved, the kids aren't screaming, the TV isn't on, somebody's in our house. And then I hear this voice go, "Somebody's poisoned the water hole." And then I realized it was fucking Woody the Sheriff from Toy Story. Quincy had this talking Woody doll that spoke when you pressed his hand, and now it was talking by itself in the middle of the night. Now I like to think I did what my father would do. I turned on the light, and I said in a loud, firm, masculine voice, "Honey, wake up! Woody has come to life, and I am not going down there by myself." And Dee was going, "What? What are you talking about?" I just half asleep. "What are you talking about?" And before I could answer, we both heard Woody go, "Reach for the sky." And I said heroically, "I thought, you are coming with me. I'll go first. I'm not going to hide behind you, but you are definitely coming with me." So we go downstairs. I'm moving very carefully. Dee is laughing very hysterically behind me. Woody had been shoved under Quincy's bed in such a way that his hand was being pressed every time Quincy turned over in his sleep. I grabbed Woody out from under the bed and looked at that terrifying, frozen plastic face. "I got a snake in my boots." And I put him up high up on a shelf where nothing could accidentally press his hand again. Quincy slept through the whole thing, the little shit. Dee and I went back to bed, and yes, I left the light on. So my dad and I are different. He would not have asked his wife for backup against a talking devil doll. And I am very much into public displays of affection. I'm a big hugger. I tell my kids I love them every day. I kiss them both as much as I can. Jesus, I hope my dad and I are different. I've been talking about him in the past tense because he has Alzheimer's now. And his life is an ongoing daily game of, recognize that guy? And I wonder, whoa, am I going to get it? Am I going to end up like my dad? Every time I walk into a room now and I forget what I come in here for, I go, oh shit, it's starting. I don't get to see Dad much anymore because I don't like admitting this. It's scary to see him. He used to be a very physical, very active man. And now he just sits there like a blank-faced doll. But I know he loves me, and he always did. What did I tell you? I know he always loved me. I know he was always there for me. And my kids know I love them, and I will always be there for them. Unless they're attacked by a fucking talking doll. And then they are on their own.